Something I want to talk about is this chordal formulation that I stumbled upon. I'm sure I'm not the first person, but I stumbled upon it myself and I thought it was really interesting. The first aspect of it is forget the E strings exist. We're only using the inner four strings. We can use the E strings to fill out chords later, but right now, to explain the concept, taking the bottom and top E string out of the equation. We're gonna start in the key of E major, and this relies heavily on the ability to play a C style E chord. And so if we go through the shapes, let's start with just the major shapes that we have. So if we're doing the one chord, we can be here, we can be here, we can be here, which is an octave above there. Then for the four chord, A, we can be here. And again, we're forgetting about the top and bottom E strings, so we're not doing a whole chord position shift like this. It would be, the change would be like, so that voicing, which is the E shaped, and so you got that there. You've got your classic open position. You got the C shape, and then again that. Moving to the B chord. So B, same sort of scenario. We got down here, and then the C shape, and then this one. And then, so those are the three major chords in a key. Now, another thing that I'm excluding from this equation is the 7 chord, the scale degree 7th chord. Forget it exists. We're not going to use it, at least for now. And the same thing with 7th chords. So like, we're not going to do, you can, but I'm just saying for the sake of what I'm trying to convey here, no like B7s or any of that. So going to the minor chords, the 2 chords, so we're gonna play basically our bar chord shapes. We're gonna play like we did with the majors with the minors. So really comfy and easy to grab. That's the main thing I've noticed from stumbling upon this, is all the chords become very easy to grab and feel much more natural than sort of these huge macro level chords, and just sort of forgetting about those shapes and accepting these middle 4 strings as the voice leading patterns of these chords. And I'll get to that more in a moment. So F sharp minor, G sharp minor, and for the minor variations, kind of trying to stick between just these and then the A shape. So 2 shapes. So far we have played 6 of the 7 chords, and we're not going to care about the 7th chord for now. And we've only used 2 shapes. Well, 2 shapes for major and 2 shapes for minor. So back in major, we have this shape. So 2 shapes. And then for minor, to expand on this more, is to go through chord progressions from wherever and see how you can voice lead them using these chord shapes in a much more pleasant voice leading way, but turns out it becomes a much more pleasant playing experience, at least I think. So we're one of the chord progressions I was playing with was 1, 6, 3, and then B or 5, first inversion. And so that's not a shape we've talked about yet. So it's taking this, the A shape of the B, and putting the third in the bass. And it gives you this really easy way to transition between, in this case, between the 3 chord and the 5 chord, which one note difference, very interesting. It also has a tension and relief characteristic. It almost sounds like there's a suspension happening. So let me play it in context. So once you realize where that chord's going, you kind of get that release from, and you realize that this minor chord was kind of tensious, and you can do the same thing with A and F sharp minor, the 4 and the 2 chord. So, and it's going to be the same exact shapes as these. And it, again, has the same sort of, it's not a suspension, but you are kind of getting this tension relief. Aspect to it. So getting back to it, you now have those possibilities for voice leading. So if you were coming at it, if you were saying, okay, let's do a 1, 6, 3, 5 chord or chord progression, and so let's pretend we're coming at it without this knowledge, and so the chord progression will be E, C sharp minor, F or G sharp minor, and B. So your first instinct might to be go like E. Oh, I got my open E chord, of course. Okay, so I mean that sounds fine and is totally fine, but I find it much more pleasant to play E starting here, and then getting to the next chord, I'm just already there, and there's not this huge jump, which this could get me into a whole nother subject of something I learned recently about how you don't want to position shift during a harmonic shift, because when you shift during that harmonic shift to whatever the next chord or sequence is, it's something that everybody hears but I don't think realizes that they're hearing. So getting back to the chords, I'm finding that, oh, I can get through this chord progression with the least amount of movement on the fretboard as possible, and therefore it allows me to get a much smoother, pleasurable sound and pleasurable feel out of it. So yeah, so if we were coming at it raw, we would be like this, and then, or jumping around. And it's like what I've come to realize by this way to think about chords, about your basic chords, is like let's not move that much. Why do we need to move that much? And it's like, well, I see an E chord on the page, so I'm going to play E. And that's fine, like I said. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way. I'm just saying, for me, this is a much more comfortable, pleasurable experience. And it also, musically, you're voice leading the chord changes. So that's basically, here is like, okay, what's the next chord I can go to with the least amount of movement? And it, or I should say, of going from 1 to 6, of all my options I could go to from here, which would be the easiest? Would it be going up here? I mean, that's a massive jump. You're switching from this cage shape, or from the C shape to the E shape. So there you got 2 disadvantages. You have this massive harmonic leap from these steps to these steps. Or you go with this option, the A minor shape. Can even leave down 2 fingers. And then the same question to the next chord. It's like, okay, I could do that. I could grab the root and get the high E string. But you know what? I'm playing with other instruments. I mean, obviously not right now, but let the bass get the root. It'll sound much more interesting if everybody isn't just playing the same thing. Then you don't need to worry about the root being the root of the chord. And then all suddenly you have this nice comfy position. And look at how small the change my fingers are going through. This 2-note cluster is just getting shifted over. Super comfy. And then from here, okay, what are my options to get to B? I could go down to here, which would be fine. I could go up to here, which would be, if you were playing like the full bar chords, it would be kind of that sort of glissando sound to get to there. That's one transition where you want the audience to hear that transition. You could go up to here if you wanted. I mean, there's nobody stopping you. It's a pretty scary jump. Or you could play first inversion, and all of a sudden you're just taking 1 note off. And so in the course of these 4 chords, we've covered all the harmonic ground. We haven't position shift once. The only chord, which honestly, this is great, like watching TV and practice, is if you're not used to this, grabbing this chord like this, the C shape, that's good, like TV practice, just like going to it from nothing, going to it from other chords, to really get that down and nice and comfy, because once that one's comfy, the rest of them are super easy. So like this shape, which would be like this chord, and then so like all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm presented with a song, you know, here's the chord chart or whatever, and you get the 4 chords. Instead of thinking, like, okay, I see an E, I'm going to play my E chord, I know. It's like, no, you know, let's let's sort of forget about all those chords. They'll pop up. Like, I mean, I guess like if you play, you know, that's the octave above that. So instead of thinking like, okay, what's the shape I play for that? You get these shapes down. You understand. You sort of break down what the 6 shapes you need to know in any key, basically. Or, well, yeah. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes that you need to get down to play the 6 chords. Again, because we're not going to worry about the 7th chord. This, just in this context, we're not going to worry about it. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay. And since I have gotten this method down, it's like, okay, I think I can pick up songs super quick if you just gave me the chords. Like, this isn't, like, this could unlock that for you. This didn't unlock that for me, because like, if I saw 4 chords, I would just play them, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. But this definitely unlocked a better, I think, way to play the chords. You end up sounding different, but not so different that it's like, oh, that's not a great voicing for that chord. It's like, no, all these sound pretty darn good, and allow you to accomplish interesting things. They don't get too muddy because you're not playing the bass note. You're not hitting any thirds on lower strings, and yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, so I think I'll just end it there.